So we are doing something a little different this week. We are starting our show with an interview, and it's a really worthwhile one. We have three amazing filmmakers with us. They are the filmmakers of the Oscar-shortlisted animated short, If Anything Happens, I Love You. We are so happy to welcome the writers and directors of the short, Will McCormick and Michael Govier, and the lead producer, Marianne Garger. Please, could all of you just kind of announce yourselves with your names so that people can distinguish your voices on the recording? Let's start with Will.
Hey, I'm Will McCormick, co-director of If Anything Happens, I Love You.
Michael?
Hi, I'm Michael Govier. I am the other co-director, co-writer on the film.
And Marianne.
Hey, everybody. I'm Marianne Garger, producer on the movie, and thank you guys so much for having us.
Tim, I'm going to let you take the lead on the questioning because, you and I spoke about this incredible animated short, and you just had some amazing things to say about it. So I'll let Tim kind of lead us off here first.
Well, it's a perfectly exquisite film, of course. And I think that what I'd like for all of you to comment on is the utter simplicity of it all. Particularly, at a moment in the history of sort of Hollywood animation anyway, where, Pixar and everybody is doing heavy duty 3D super. I think something just got an award for the animated hair or something, recently. And you guys eschew all of that, to tell this story visually. And with such simplicity. Talk to us a little bit about that. Because I don't think it would have worked better in any other way.
Thank you so much. We talked endlessly about the style and the look and the feel of the film. It was paramount to us. We were going for complete minimalism and sort of parsimony in style in a very 2D lean way. We wanted the film to look and feel like grief, that could feel desolate and barren. And, Michael and Marianne and I sort of had a cardinal rule when it came to design, that anything that didn't need to be in frame, we would remove it. And once we committed to that style, it was really exciting. And we kept stripping and stripping and stripping and getting down to the bare essentials, which seemed to work. I thought that, we all thought that we could do more with less. And I think it works in the movie in that you're able to hang a lantern on just the emotionality of the moment, which feels specific to that type of grief that is that acute. It's sort of, and it also, I think, works in the memory section of the film. I think implicit memory works that way. When you remember the past, you don't remember everything that was in the room per se, but you do remember how you feel. So once we committed to that style of minimalism, in a movie with no dialogue, it was terrifying as storytellers, but it was also really exciting. And then ultimately, I think, rewarding. It works well for the story.
One thing, we really did start with the story dictated the style rather than finding the style to then push the story on, where, all kinds of companies have their own style of animation, their own style, and then it will always be that look. And so we actually started with the story and then found our style that supported the story rather than saying, okay, here's the look and it has to match that. So that was something that we really talked a lot about, to find our own style. And we were so lucky and blessed to have young Renaud, who is our animation director. She had just graduated from Cal Arts, and she came on board right at the very beginning. And it was all of us gelled with her look, her designs, and it was just this kind of perfect moment of everyone working together.
Marianne, talk for a second. My understanding was that this was done at your kitchen table for the most part. Is that correct?
Well, it was either mine or Will's or Michael's.
Okay.
And we called it the kitchen table production. I mean, the strength of the script was the vision was so strong, directorial, and the writing was so strong from Will and from Michael. This was the first time I had done anything outside of a studio system. and we had no money. We had no talent, no artists, no equipment, no distribution. We had nothing. But one thing that we did have was a lot of passion. And we said, no matter what, we're going to get together around that kitchen table every week, and we're going to sort of take problem by problem. And we slowly found Young Rando and, slowly figured a way of moving the needle forward. It was very hard, but yet very rewarding. And I think part of the reason why it was successful creatively was to the absolute strength of vision of Will and Michael.
And we should point out here, Tim and I are tiptoeing around the plot of the film a little bit because we don't really want to give anything away. It's one of those animated films. You formulated a story which really doesn't manifest what it's about until it just really hits you with everything. And it's incredible how much emotion you pack into that. I will say it's a little bit mystical and a little bit spiritual, and there's this kind of abstract journey that it takes you on, and you're wondering for so many minutes, where is this going, and what do these characters and these images represent, and is this a dream, is it reality? And then eventually you show your hand, and it's the emotional payoff of that moment. And even remembering it is so extraordinary that you have this viral TikTok phenomenon where people are showing the before and the after, and it's before, here I am, normal me, and after, people just awash in tears. And, I'm tearing up just remembering it right now. I mean, that's an extraordinary thing to pull off in a live action film. But to maintain this is what always mystifies people about animation, is that you're doing this one frame at a time, 1 second at a time, to maintain that emotional investment as filmmakers so that it pays off in the film. That's an incredible thing. Can you talk about how did you just keep the energy and the commitment and the drive throughout this whole thing?
Thank you so much for that astute breakdown. The film had a very interesting journey because we wrote the script and we brought it everywhere, and everyone said no. Everyone says this film is too sad. No one will want to watch it. It's just too much. And so we had pitched it to all these different studios and all these places, and everyone said, no. We like the script. It made us cry, but we can't do anything with it. Best of luck on your journey. And it was kind of that. And then from there, we just decided we needed to make it. And the surprising thing, like what you were talking about TikTok, is like after we made it, the response has been overwhelming. I mean, all these people want to feel, all these kids are on TikTok and want to feel, and they have these huge emotional responses, and they want to have an outlet, and they want to have these discussions about grief. And so it's been so rewarding to be part of that conversation, and also to have it so simple and, tell so much story in 12 minutes. Like, we just kind of did everything we could. And I kind of always feel the film kind of feels like a fog, like a slow fog that slowly rolls in, or just this gentle little breeze. And it's all of a sudden, it just eventually is all around you. And that's when those big moments hit and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm in it. And I've always felt it just kind of has a slow, like, if you look at the San Francisco Bay, when you see that fog slowly move in over the whole city, I kind of feel like the film has that emotional feeling to it.
I believe that Marianne mentioned that there is no dialogue. Was it conceived without? Was there ever dialogue, per se, in the film, or was it conceived as it is?
Initially, there was one line of dialogue, or maybe two, and we found that in building the movie, we cut it. So, as a screenwriter, you're always trying to tell a story. You're trying to show and not tell, and trying to tell a story in as few words as possible, and going for total economy. And so it was exciting. I mean, to tell a story visually with no dialogue at all felt like a challenge, but it felt right for the film. Coincidentally, I think that that's one of the reasons why the film also played so well around the world. I mean, as Michael said, nobody wanted the movie. They said it was too sad. It was truly the most independent film I've ever worked on, and I've worked on a lot of independent films. But 66 million people around the world showed up on TikTok, and it was surreal to watch people watch a movie in real time. But I think also because the film had no dialogue, it also played well in all of these different countries because it's just the actual images that speak. And that was unintentional. We didn't think like, oh my God, this movie's going to play really well in Brazil because it has no dialogue. It was just like a happy accident.
Well, because it forces
it was so wild
the watcher to in fact watch. No, please go on.
Oh, no, I was saying like it was so wild to have all these people write us, email us, or text us on social media in all these different languages and saying they saw our film, and like you're having to use Google Translate to kind of see what are they saying, and they're saying wonderful things. But it was like I never would have thought, none of us would have thought it's like someone's writing to us in Portuguese, someone's writing us into Farsi, like, you know, all of these languages that are amazing, and they're saying these wonderful things about the film. So it was just this amazing thing. You know, we were number one on the Netflix top 10 in Brazil for like a week, which as a short film, it's like that just doesn't happen. It's like you would never think that this is a thing.
And the film is, we should point out, available on Netflix right now. Anyone in North America can see it. Is it on Netflix globally? Is there anywhere that people cannot see it on Netflix?
That's a great question. I
believe it's globally.
I think the only place it might not be playing is China, because they had a different rules about with Netflix shows there. But past that, it's playing in I think 150 countries, like everywhere Netflix is globally.
That's amazing,
man.
So let's get to some of the production particulars of this, because you're not Pixar, you're not a studio, you don't have the resources of endless computers. This thing is hand drawn. You don't have a post-production department. Talk about when you tackle something like this as three people. How do you begin, and what were the major hurdles that you ran into that you may not have anticipated?
Well, the power move. Oh yeah, Marianne. I was going to say Marianne was the power move. Marianne, I'll set Marianne up right here. The biggest move we did was, as we were trying to build this, we pitched it everywhere and we couldn't go anywhere. So then Marianne's like, we should just build it. We should just make it and just start building it, and then it will work out. And so I'll let Marianne take over from there.
Oh, Mike, it's so sweet. Well, we thought, like, because of the subject matter, it would be good to involve youth and youthful talent, youthful artists. And we looked to USC, and Will and Michael had a great contact at Cal Arts. And we found recent graduates that may be interested in storyboarding this project. And Will and Michael, I'll let them talk about how they found Young Rando, but we just sort of got started on pizza money, as we called it. We would get together, we would, have great food and great meals around the table. And for editorial, we called in a favor from a previous colleague, Peter Edinger, who had just come off a movie and had some downtime and was really impressed with the project and very happy to join. And I think Will and Michael have a great story about how they found Young Ran and knew she was the right fit.
Yeah, we had sent her the script, and she had read the script, and we said, hey, let's all meet up at a coffee shop and, let's talk about this, because, that's where we started. And so then it was just like she walks in and we meet her, and then she says, this film reminds me of this film called Father and Daughter. And it has a lot of these emotions and a lot of these big feelings in it. And Will and I look at each other because that's our favorite film that we've been modeling as far as tonally after the whole time. And we hadn't discussed this with her at all. And that's the one we had looked at for the minimalism, for the designs, just as jumping off point as far as inspiration. And so she instantly brings up that film. And we are so connected, and we go, well, this is it. You get this. You get where we're going, and you get what we want to do. And it was just this perfect gelling of us with her. And then from there, it went very smooth. Like everyone's on the same page. Everyone really collaborated quite well. And everyone was there to like up each other's game. It was just like a really good team dynamic where it's like, man, that's an amazing point guard. That point guard's going to get that forward open. And now that forward is just, we got this. And so it was this perfect team dynamic.
When we say hand,
yeah, we were able to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go on, please.
No, please go.
I was going to say, when we say hand drawn today in animation, exactly what does that mean? Pencils, actual pencils and paper, or what does that mean exactly today?
Hand drawn today still means what you kind of think. It's done by hand, but we've advanced in the world. And so you have like a giant kind of tablet like device that's specifically for animation. And you have a pencil, which is, a fancy computer pencil, and you're drawing on the actual screen. So every little moment is drawn. And what you can do with it, instead of having to pick up different kind of brushes or different things to paint with, you can redesign your brushes in the computer. So every stroke will be a different kind of look depending on what you want it to do. If you want, like ours have those kind of fine point kind of pencil ones, or Young kind of called it's got this kind of scratchy look to it. And she designed all of the brushes that you see in the film. And that's how we got that wonderful look, is because she built those brushes and then shared it with the other animators. So everyone has the same tools as they're building it. But it is, hand drawn is the fact that it's 2D. There's 24 frames in a second. So there's 24 images every second that are drawn, and that's just the baseline. And now sometimes we drop frames or you add more frames depending on how you want the animation to look. But that's kind of the base world of it.
Yeah, I think they used a program. They even had their own equipment in the very beginning from school and used a program called TV Paint, I think, right, Michael and Will?
Yes.
What I still find also so striking is what Tim initially talked about, the simplicity of it. Was there ever a moment where you felt maybe it's too simple? Maybe we need more of this, where there was that temptation to say, more is always better in movies. It's, we need more sound. Maybe we need dialogue. Maybe we needed to go some CG. Maybe we need to use this really sophisticated software. Was that temptation ever there where you felt maybe you were just too old school?
We had a moment early on when we were doing exploratory art for the memory section, kind of the middle of the film, where you see the most color. And we did some exploratory art that had a lot of color in it. And that was always intended to have a ton of color, but it was just so much and it was so overwhelming, because instead of staying in the story, all you're doing is you're looking at it, go, wow, that background's really vibrant. Wow, their clothes are really vibrant. The car that drives up to the Grand Canyon is like way too intense and blue. And so we then kept stripping that down and go, okay, we need to mute everything so it doesn't pull us out of story. It doesn't pull us out of this scene. And so that was the constant balance we were always having, trying to make sure color didn't overwhelm story, or you don't get, the last thing I wanted anyone to do is watch the movie and drop out of a scene and just go, wow, that background's amazing, but not be in the scene. So we always wanted people to be with the scene and in that moment.
So it sounds to me like you guys really, really had a pretty firm vision from the beginning. Because what I often hear from, especially with animators, is that, well, it changes as you go along. I mean, especially those who do stop motion will very often change a lot of stuff as they go along. They begin to realize what is and isn't possible. They change ideas. It sounds like you guys had a concept, you stuck with it, and you didn't allow the temptations to sort of deviate or to pull you off track. Is that a fair assessment?
For sure, yeah. A lot of times in animation, like Michael said earlier, people find the story in the art. And we didn't have that luxury because we didn't have any money. Moreover, the movie is very heavy, so we treated the script scrupulously and sensitively, and we spent about a year on a 11-page script, because we wanted to make sure that this film felt authentic to the material and felt authentic to grief. So I've worked at Pixar for a couple of years, and they take 5 or 6 years to make a movie. We had zero money and zero resources. So, it's really like an independent, like a live action film. Like you get one take, like, what you're putting up on the screen, you have to make sure you need.
Yeah, we didn't really take any other, I mean, the ways we explored in character design and character look. But as far as story, we didn't explore story as far as different plot lines or other things that are happening. We had the whole world, and we had even wrote out like the transitions between the scenes. We wrote out a lot of things and a lot of major components. And then the biggest thing when we started with Young, it's like, okay, what do these people look like? How do they move? And what are the relationships to each other as far as physically, and what are they wearing?
We will happily take more money though for our next film if anyone's listening.
but
I don't know what to do with ourselves.
I don't want to be like, oh, these guys can make a movie for nothing. They'll do it again. Like we'll have.
when it comes to issues of style, though, because we look at a film like this with this very unique style. I think about a film like The Triplets of Belleville with that very particular style, and then you have the sort of big studio styles of animation, Warner Brothers and what they do, Pixar and what they do, etc. The big films, they live in those worlds. How can we get films that have unique styles to live in the world of animation, even feature animation, where they don't have to adhere to the sort of studio design of what animation looks like, generally speaking, these days?
I think that's a great question. To get, I think, more people trying other styles and other designs, it's just, the more we can support independent animation, because once the big studio defines their style, the style's a brand. It's like, it is a thing and it needs to look like it always looks, so you know what you get. And that's kind of the problem as far as if venturing out. And I think if you want people to venture out and do this, like ours is a great example. Like there were kids on TikTok, which were so funny. They said this statement. They said, I think it's animated, but I don't know what it is, because they didn't define our style as animation. They just saw it as something else. And some even said, I think it's stop motion. I don't know, because their only animation only looks like Disney, Pixar, Warner Brothers. Like there's one look, and that's what animation is. And I love that there's variety, and I hope more variety comes out of this. And those are the ones I'm drawn to, because I want to see a unique voice and a unique perspective in even the designs.
Yeah, and I think that design should be bespoke to the story. I mean, like Michael said, there's so much familiarity with the look, and I think people relate to it because it's familiar. But, this movie would have not looked good in that 3D bubbly Pixar style. I mean, we wanted the film to look and feel like the spirit of the movie. And so we really let story dictate style. And I think rather than people using a default style because everyone's used to it, I think it's an exciting time for people to put forth new styles into the world and for people to embrace them. And that's really what happened with our film. And it was really exciting to watch.
Well, that's what heartens me about the TikTok response too, is that you've that's sort of the audience that matters to the larger companies, which is, young people and,
Yep.
and, they don't really care what people like Tim and I think, critics can say what they want, but ultimately, can you get, that 18 to 24 demo? That's the one they're concerned with. And if they respond to some new animation style, well, then maybe these companies will take more risks. I think that's the good thing. Let me kind of try to move us toward the end of the interview. And I'm reluctant to ask this question because I don't want to get too personal and I don't want to initiate a conversation that would reveal too much, because I'd like for people to go to Netflix and find this film and experience it as fresh as Tim and I did. But let me just ask the question just in case. It feels super personal, and without giving away too much, the origins of the story and how it came together. Did it come from a personal place? Without being too specific, what can you say about sort of how the story came together and was shaped?
I think it came from a personal place where Will and I, wanted to have conversations about grief. And we had been talking about grief in our own lives, our own personal grief, and how we all relate to grief. And how grief is portrayed, and grief is portrayed in these little quiet moments. And we wanted to feature those in the film, these little quiet moments where you remember people you lost. And that's kind of, without getting deeper into the film, that's kind of what it is. We really wanted to tackle our own personal grief and kind of put that on the screen and have a larger discussion.
Yeah, I've been trying to wrestle with, I've had a lot of loss in my life, and I've been trying to wrestle with loss creatively ever since I started trying to make things. I mean, even as a kid, stories about loss really moved me. Like, my favorite movie when I was a kid wasn't Gremlins, it was Ordinary People, So I've always I've always been trying to wrestle with things creatively that are hard for me in life. And I just, working with Michael and Marianne and on this film in this independent way, I don't think this movie could have ever been made at a studio. And in fact, I know it couldn't, because everyone said no. So we just decided to make it. So, it was the most rewarding, exciting thing, because everyone was doing this film for the first time. I mean, it was the first time for the animation director. It was the first time Marianne Gargar was producing a 2D short film. It was Michael and our directorial debut. And I think with that, there comes a spirit of, well, why not? Why can't we do this? Because no one's stopping us. We're unfettered by the designs of the studio and what they think they need to make. And we're just trying to tell a story that's authentic to us. And that was really, really exciting.
Yeah, and this film was just made of perseverance. I mean,
I'm sorry, please go ahead, please.
Oh, the film was just made with perseverance. That's what this is. We went out to these studios. We even went to Netflix at the very beginning and pitched the script to them. And they said, "We're sorry, it's too sad. We're not interested." And then we went and did it again. We brought it, what we had in animatic, thinking maybe they would want to come on board, and they didn't. But then, this is perseverance. We went back a third time. And they go, "We see the full vision. We love it. We would like to distribute it." But this was after we had a full festival run and a very independent life. But it's just the film, every stage has been an independent endurance and perseverance experience.
I was going to say that makes me giggle so much.
Sorry, Marianne, go ahead. You were saying too?
Oh, no, sorry. I was just saying that's one thing that is my biggest takeaway from this experience is the lesson of tenacity. If you have conviction in doing something, you will find a way. And what was so beautiful is not only, for us, the definition of success was always completing it. It was never getting on Netflix. It was never having 66, 70 million TikTok views and number in the top 10 in 74 countries, none of that. It was just to make this beautiful statement, and artistically, and to finish it. And And also the other thing that I think we're so proud of is that we did it in a way, our approach was always to uplift voices that otherwise may not have an opportunity. And so, we have an all-female animation team. We have, a beautiful, beautiful orchestra, the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles, who, took 4 or 5 days and learned Beautiful Dreamer. And, even during the pandemic, we recorded one musician at a time and then, sort of layered it in post. And there's just so many lovely people that were involved. And I think we're a family forever, really. It was the best filmmaking experience I've ever had. And definitely I'll echo what Will and Michael said is if you want to do something by hook or by crook, you will find a way. Just don't stop asking. For every 100 no's, there's a maybe. One maybe.
And Tim and I talk about this all the time. It's studios and the more cynical parts of the movie industry will very often sort of sneer at the idea that if you put your passion out there, it'll find an audience, that we have to somehow figure out what do people want, and you need a marketing committee to figure out how to sell it. And you guys are proof that that's not how it works. That if you put your heart and soul into something and you never give up, people will find you and you'll find them, especially in the digital era. And I'm just so grateful that you guys made this film and people can find it. And it's out there in the world. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Tim, did you have any kind of final thoughts?
Well, only pay no attention to the no's. There are a lot of filmmakers who listen to this podcast, and this is a beautiful film, and they should all go and see it on Netflix. And let it overwhelm them as it did us. But for the filmmakers out there, the lesson to take away from this is to pay no attention to the no's.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Embrace the no's. Embrace the no's.
Well, I want to thank all of you. Once again, Will McCormick and Michael Govier, writers and directors of If Anything Happens, I Love You. Marianne Garger, lead producer of If Anything Happens, I Love You. Anyone who wants to see it, it's on Netflix. If Anything Happens, I Love You. Whatever country you're in, you should be able to find it, and I would urge people to see it. Are there any final thoughts? I'll give anyone just a few final seconds to share any final thoughts that might have come to you.
I have one. I would just recommend for independent filmmakers. We had a wonderful partnership with Film Independent, which fiscally sponsored us through their 501c3. So any donations made were tax deductible, and which was an incentive to support our artistic endeavor. And it's a wonderful organization, and they were so good to us, and we had such a great experience with them.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank all of you on behalf of Tim and me. This is wonderful. We will encourage all of our listeners to go to Netflix and find it. It'll take a very small chunk of time. Don't you can watch this movie and it's a short animated film. There's no excuse to not watch it. Tim, final thought?
12 exquisite minutes. Thank you very much.
All right, we're good. So, a little something different this week. Started off with an interview, and we are, of course, rooting for that great little short film to get an Oscar nomination in less than 2 weeks now. We're 2 weeks away from the Oscar nomination. So, really, really hoping they pull that one off. And if you haven't seen it, again, go to Netflix and check it out. It's an absolutely terrific little short film. So Tim, postmortem on the Golden Globes, which I'm at full disclosure, I know who won. I watched maybe 5 minutes of that train wreck, as much as I could take. I saw Jason Sudeikis in his hoodie accept his award. I saw Don Cheadle laugh and give him the wrap it up motion. And I heard a couple of bad jokes, and I started to cry, and then I just turned on the Laker game, because I would much rather watch the Lakers win than watch the Golden Globes destroy careers. So that being said, in light of the winners, and knowing that we have very strong opinions about the Globes and the HFPA generally, how do you feel about it?
Well, it's a funny thing about the Golden Globes, about the Hollywood Foreign Press, controversy coming out just before this past Sunday's show, of course, revealing all sorts of things about the Hollywood Foreign Press, which I will admit that while there's not much that we don't know who's in the Hollywood Foreign Press, relatively speaking. The big controversy. I mean, you know what it was, and the jokes about that particular thing. I don't know why I'm being coy about it. There are no black people in the Hollywood Foreign Press. Why am I being coy? There are no black people in the Hollywood Foreign Press. And Sacha Baron Cohen had a little funny about that, and a few other people had some funnies about that. The Hollywood Foreign Press is such a disreputable organization for so many other reasons that the fact that they don't have any black people in the press association actually made me happy. I thought to myself, great.
So this is what I was saying to people. I was saying, so just so you understand the criticism, because over what has been transpired and what has been the accusations that have been levied in just the past few weeks, this is where we are. Hey, this group of money launderers and embezzlers aren't diverse enough. Could you go out and find some black embezzlers and money launderers? That's effectively what people are saying. Which I don't know how, I don't know, whatever. But the other part of it is the Hollywood Foreign Press has never claimed to be a racially diverse group. They represent foreign press. They represent people from other countries who live in Los Angeles and write about movies for foreign publications, which is a really weird group. I mean, if you know the people, you're like, there are people from Eastern Europe. There are a couple of people from South America. There are a fair number of Asians, people from India, people from Japan. It's like, it's always been this weird ragtag group. Mm-hmm. And my question is, okay, are there any black film journalists from other countries living and writing in Los Angeles? And if there are, do they even want to join the HFPA? I don't know. You belong to the Black Film Critics Association.
Actually, I don't. That's what I was going to tell you. That's what I was going to tell you, which is sort of funny. Yeah, and there's no particular reason why I don't, but in fact I don't. Right. While at the same time, I am a member of a film critics organization called Gallica, which is the gay and lesbian. Which, of course, is interesting because I'm neither gay. Some people question whether or not I'm a lesbian, but I'm not gay per se. But I am a member of that. They asked me to join, and I joined. I said sure. And actually, I've been invited to join the Black Film Critics Association. I just never felt particularly strong about it.
You certainly know. Yeah,
I know lots of people who
are okay. I mean, we know a lot. I mean, there are a lot of black film critics in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
We know a lot of them, but they're all American as far as I know.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a Canadian in there somewhere, but I don't know any who are from say France, none from Africa, from Brazil, from the Caribbean. I don't know that there are any even in America. So, or even in Los Angeles. So I'm just wondering, based on what the HFPA defines itself as, where are they supposed to go and find those members?
I would hope, and since I don't know any, and I'm not going to be too smarty pants about this, but I would hope that from nations like Nigeria or Kenya or even South Africa, fairly sophisticated, there are journalists from those countries who are black. Who could very, easily and forthrightly and fairly be members of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, writing about Hollywood cinema, for publications or whatever, in countries like those. One would think that might be possible.
I suspect. Now, I just don't know of any.
I don't know of any either. One would think it might be possible, but again, I have to go back to the thing that I thought about that at first. First of all, it didn't strike me as particularly surprising. There was a lot of shock and awe about it. I didn't have any shock and awe about it, and ultimately, as you said, this is just one of them. Look, we don't want to get involved in any sort of libel or slander or anything like that. But just if you understand that that's a $60 million television deal. that very small organization has, that all kinds of stuff is going on to do with swag and trips and all kinds of things. If things get an organization, which is not unlike our organization, Los Angeles Film Critics Association, right? Now, we don't have a $60 million TV deal.
No, we sure don't.
And nobody flies us anywhere to do anything. On the other hand, we have a very creditable film criticism organization. And what happens when you do what they do at the Hollywood Foreign Press is that you do not have a very creditable organization. That organization doesn't have any credibility. So to that extent, I can care less. Look, I've never been invited to join. I used to do a lot of work for international press.
Yeah.
My Germans and my Italians and all that kind of stuff. But I was never invited to join the Hollywood Foreign Press and become a part of any of that. So,
the other part of it is, the people are saying, well, but their influence is so outsized that, we expect to hold them to higher standards. Well, my feeling is this. But see, this is the thing. Even if they have any influence, it's only because we've given them influence. Yeah. If everybody just sort of looks at each other and says, we all kind of agree this is a disreputable organization, why would you want to change them when you have over here the Critics' Choice Awards, which is a better group, a more honest group, a more reputable group, a larger and more diverse group that represents broadcast journalists all over Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. They put on a better show. Their award choices are more respectable. There's less politicking and there are no accusations of improprieties. Why try to change? Why do the heavy lift? Why take this other organization? Just say, you know what? We're done with the Globes. We're not going to renew your television contract. We're going to go with the Critics' Choice Awards instead. Because they behaved. Reward the kid that behaves. Don't try to take the misbehaving kid and turn them into something they're not. You know what I mean?
Therein lies this sort of really interesting question when it comes to the Hollywood Foreign Press and the Golden Globes, which is a fairly old organization. It's been around a long time. It was built into this sort of popular organization very early on. Yeah. Not so much in competition with the Academy, because they were always a more populist sort of organization, which is why they have those categories about best comedy and they cover television and do all the things that they do. So the question becomes this: if you're a television network and you have goodwill and credibility with your audience, and you put on a show, you give a $60 million deal to an organization like the Hollywood Foreign Press, you put on that television show every week that everyone makes fun of. That is being held by this. Aren't you doing damage, to the goodwill and prestige of your television network? What was that? ABC? I think it was ABC. Or was it NBC? I think it was NBC.
NBC. Yeah.
It seems to me, you kind of now, I get it. They will come back and say, yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but we sold $250 million worth of ads for that broadcast, and we'll sell $250 million worth of ads for that broadcast next year after this quote unquote scandal, and it'll just sort of like go on like that back and forth. But I don't know. It seems to me that somebody somewhere ultimately just has to say, you know what, this is just all skeezy. and I just don't want to be in the skeezy. If that's why I'm going to go not be in the skeezy anymore. But there it is.
Well, anyway, as far as the winners go, I was really, really happy, even though I'm still upset that Small Axe isn't really considered a feature, that it's in the TV categories, because it was not for the LA Film Critics. But I was very happy to see John Boyega get an award for Small Axe. Yeah. I thought it was great, even though I think he's a lead actor, not a supporting actor. That's another issue. But on that end, and then certainly on the film end, Nomadland, not my favorite movie, but I like Chloe Zhao. Her winning made a difference. I thought was really good. Yeah.
Appreciate the film. Really happy about her winning. Would have appreciated a film like Minari.
I agree.
If it, but then there again, that little wacky situation there.
Very, very peculiar. And otherwise, I mean, a lot of Andra Day winning was a bit of a surprise. I didn't see that coming. I don't know if you did.
The thing about that Billie Holiday movie is her. She is the thing, and she gives this astounding performance. The Southern California native out of San Diego, of course, that big hit song. First time her sort of acting debut, certainly feature film acting debut.
Up against four heavyweights. I mean, she's up against Viola Davis, Vanessa Kirby, Frances McDormand, and Carey Mulligan. That was amazing, and I wonder if there wasn't a split vote there. Maybe
might have been because I could. Well, the thing of it is, I suppose in my bones, I kind of saw Viola Davis doing that thing that she does. When she's in one of those August Wilson adaptations. So I kind of just saw that happening, and then I thought to myself, outside shot here, Mulligan. Because everybody was really talking about her and that promising young woman. So there may be an outside shot there. Maybe Viola's already had her day, and the Oscars will be looking at Viola. And so Andra Day, coming up from the rear and getting that award, totally surprised me. Doesn't surprise me in terms of her performance. She is that good. But she's a newcomer, and usually they make those gals wait.
Exactly. Rosamund Pike, I didn't see coming because I didn't even see the film. I Care a Lot. Didn't even know about it. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, well, that would be one of those ones that we were talking about. that pop up at like to go to. So that was not on anybody's radar. As back when we were doing our thing for LAFCA.
Did you now? You covered the Mauritanian on radio. I think you did, didn't you? Didn't you cover that on Film Week?
I did.
Did you see Jodie Foster coming up from the rear?
No. I got to tell you, this to me, that's I like the Mauritanian. It's a very safe, traditionally constructed film. She's playing Nancy Hollander, this lawyer who took on this case for this Mauritanian prisoner at Guantanamo. But it's just all so pat, that performance in that role. It's structured. She's doing Nancy Hollander, I think is her name. So she's kind of knocking off that. I mean, if you don't know who Nancy Hollander is, what do you care? But I happen to know who she is. And I'm like, yeah, she's doing her. That's great. Yeah. But all those speeches and, it's very didactic sort of, lines. And so no, didn't see that, but it's the exact kind of thing that they do at the Hollywood Foreign Press because frankly, all those old bastards, they love all that old Hollywood stuff, man.
And see now the thing about old Hollywood though, Mank didn't get anything. Mank got shut out, which I kind of predicted because even though it's loved in all these different categories, it was not the most loved in any one category. Chadwick Boseman and Daniel Kaluuya, I think, are front runners now for Academy Awards. I don't think anybody's going to challenge either of them.
Although I was really nuts about Anthony Hopkins and The Father, but I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, I will concede. I have not even yet watched The Father because I spent, 15 years caregiving my mother and her sister with dementia, and I don't think I'm ready to watch that. Yeah. I just don't. Yeah. Seriously, Aaron Sorkin screenplay, really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. Just because look, I didn't even like that. What was it? Television. Whatever it is. I
thought of the five nominees, it's the least impressive, but I guess, Sorkin being Sorkin, it is what it is. Oh, well, anyway, and then Soul got music and animated, and of course Minari for foreign, which is a little insulting to a lot of people. That should have been, it's an American film and an American story and an American filmmaker, but we won't say, anyway. So it was certainly an interesting evening. I think it says a lot about the kinds of films that were released and were in the running in the absence of big studio films. But, I don't know that it was that much different, and the Oscars will be probably somewhat reflective of it.
Well, I think about films like News of the World.
Yeah.
Big, gigantic Paul Greengrass film, Tom Hanks. Which in any other year,
which is a really good film.
It's very good. It's a really excellent film. And I've been talking about it this year, and I get it. There are a lot of these little films sort of bouncing around, but among the big films, that and Mank, sort of being out there. Not a lot of love for Hanks or any of that. I hear some Oscar buzz about News of the World. But I don't know. It's a very odd year. Most of these movies, by the way, that we've been looking at and talking about, for this award season, most of these movies were in the can before the pandemic.
Before the pandemic.
So we're watching work that was finished, sometime before March of 2020 anyway.
In fact, what you're saying is that the pandemic is going to make next year's Oscars probably more interesting than this year's.
Oh, yeah. It has to be. Has to be. The way I see it. But I don't know, broadly speaking, just in terms of, I appreciate, these little movies like Minari and Nomadland, getting looked at. But, it's all just a little bit strange. The way this award season has shaped up. Frankly, I think that perhaps we at the Los Angeles Film Critics, I think that maybe we might have gone a little too early.
I think so too. I feel like we did too. I agree.
I just, maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it's a weird year. We called it the way we called it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to blow through first. I'm going to blow through a lot of the MOD stuff that I've kind of held back, been able to kind of go through over the last couple of months. A lot of movies out there that are not available on streaming, some which kind of come and go on streaming, but you can get them MOD. They don't get heavily publicized, but MOD being manufacturer on demand. Everybody's kind of putting it out there, and these are all Blu-rays. So I'm just going to roll through this and just make mention of a lot of these and weigh in on a few of them individually. Tim, by all means, weigh in on anything you feel a need to weigh in on.
Right.
I'm going to talk about the Universal stuff first. There is Prime, which you might remember is an old Meryl Streep, Uma Thurman movie with Brian Greenberg, who never really became much of anything, but a cute little romantic comedy with a fun performance from Meryl Streep. The lovely Circle of Friends with a young Chris O'Donnell and a new Minnie Driver. This is the movie that basically made Minnie Driver. This also Universal MOD on Blu-ray. Chris O'Donnell has not aged. It's the weirdest thing in the world. Andrew Davies wrote this, and Pat O'Connor directed it. And it is a really, really charming movie set in 1950s Ireland. Minnie Driver hasn't done much lately, but boy, she was just a revelation in that movie. So adorable.
Yeah.
Sandra Dee and Bobby Darin, who of course were at one point married, together with Donald O'Connor in That Funny Feeling, which is a really, really sweet film. It's really adorable. It's from 1965. Nicely shot, very, very, Richard Thorpe, who's kind of a workaday director of the period, directed it from a David Schwartz screenplay. It's very much in the kind of like Rock Hudson, Doris Day light.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I can't look at the two of them in this movie without thinking of the terrible quasi musical biopic that Kevin Spacey did, where he plays Bobby Darin.
Oh yeah,
Beyond the Sea.
Yeah, the one where he was older than
Darin when Darin died.
It was just insane.
Yeah, it's crazy, utterly crazy. Very, very, very young Jason Lee and David Schwimmer, along with Millie Avital, in Kissing a Fool. Another little kind of romantic comedy thing from about 98. And that kind of had a moment. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to Jason Lee. He's kind of gone. We talked about, obviously, with the recent passing of Cicely Tyson, we talked about the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, which is also out in MOD on Blu-ray. That won 9 Emmy Awards, dude.
Wow.
That 9 Emmys. One movie won 9 Emmys. It's really
about 72, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I believe it was. I don't have the date right in front of me, but it's about 72, maybe 73. But yeah, just an absolutely tremendous, one of the great television movies of the period. Kitten with a Whip, Anne Margaret, Anne Margaret. This is fun. This is from 1964. Very kind of exploitation Anne Margaret. Very noir Anne Margaret. This is not Anne Margaret dancing with Elvis. This is not Anne Margaret in Carnal Knowledge showing us her acting chops, along with Jack Nicholson. This is just really gritty 1964 sort of pseudo exploitation noir film. She's a bit of a. This is almost like something that you would have expected Doris Wishman to make. One of those tough tough babes on a lamb kind of thing. She's, escapes from a detention center and burns the place down, stabs a guard. I mean, it's fun stuff. It's Anne Margaret just really, really chewing it up. The Danish Girl, fairly recent success. That is also on MOD. This was released in a non-MOD version with Ultraviolet. As was The Zookeeper's Wife. They are no longer available in those versions, but you can still see them in these MOD versions. One of the weirdest Tom Hanks movies of all time, one of the weirdest Julia Roberts movies of all time, Larry Crown.
Yeah. Which Tom directed that.
Such a weird movie. Tom Hanks is a really good director, but what an unusual romantic comedy. They're both kind of past making these kinds of movies, and I don't know that they should have been in this movie together, but I mean, I enjoy it. It's fun to watch, but you just think, why are these two people in this movie?
It's a movie. It was 2011. It's the kind of movie that should have been made in both of their young careers. Which
yes, yeah.
For him would have been the 80s, and for her would have been, I guess, the early 90s or something like that.
Crazy. One of my all-time favorite movies of the last quarter century or plus is In the Name of the Father. Daniel Day-Lewis and Emma Thompson. True story.
Postlethwaite, right?
Pete Postlethwaite, so good. Oscar nominated in many categories. Jim Sheridan wrote this with Terry George and then directed it. I haven't gotten a lot from Jim Sheridan lately, but
he had a run there. That in America, and,
he had a great run in the 1990s, 90s, mid 90s.
He's Commitments too, right?
No, that was Alan Parker.
That was Alan Parker, yeah.
But From the Field, he started with The Field.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, this is just absolutely tremendous. Really, the whole, basically it's the story of Jerry Conlon, who was a thief in the 1970s who confessed to an IRA bombing that he did not commit and everything that transpires. One of the best things Daniel Day-Lewis ever did. Yeah. Seabiscuit. A little too polished for my taste, but perfectly workable movie from Gary Ross. Has his usual sheen on it, all about the famous racehorse. Great cast, a lot of fun stuff on here. An HBO first look feature commentary with Gary Ross and Steven Soderbergh. Reality Bites. Gosh, I love Reality Bites.
Wow,
such a smart movie, right?
Winona and Ben.
And directed by Ben Stiller, really showing his chops. Just a terrific kind of Gen X movie. When Gen X was, when we're that generation. At least I am. You're still a boomer.
But it's not a cheaty boomer. I mean, but I'm so Gen X, it's ridiculous.
I'm kind of cheaty too. I like if I were born about a month earlier, I would technically be a boomer. But I'm a month into Gen X. Anyway, Reality Bites is very much a Gen X film. The My Sharona dance moment in that with it is just so much fun. It's just so much fun. Janine Garofalo at her most entertaining. A lot of extras on this thing too. So this is a lot of fun. And then the last one from the Universal batch is Dragonheart 3. I know you're thinking, really? They made a third one? No, I didn't even know they made a second one. Yeah, I know. But it's there, and it's got Ben Kingsley doing the voice of the dragon, and I guess that's worth a little something. And then I wanted to roll through some of these Columbia titles, Columbia and Sony. Oh, because there is one here in particular I want to spend a minute on. But let's just blow through the others that are available just to let people know. Radio Flyer had a nice little run. Richard Donner and his wife Lawrence Schuler Donner made this wonderful kind of childhood, sort of in that Stand By Me vein. My Girl with the young Macaulay Culkin and the very, very lovely Anna Klumsky. Dan Aykroyd, very, very good in this as well, and Jamie Lee Curtis. The Fantastic Picnic with William Holden and Kim Novak. Absolutely sensational. This has a great featurette on Kim Novak's Hollywood experience at the time of Picnic. Antonioni's The Passenger.
Oh, wow.
Which is such a great movie with Jack Nicholson and Maria Schneider. This is MOD from Sony. You can go on to Amazon and just about anywhere else and order it.
It's about as close to an actual narrative as Antonioni ever gets.
It's true. It's kind of like Antonioni's Malick film in some respects. Ice Castles, just a whole lot of schmaltz here with Robbie Benson and what's her name? I forget the actress. Yeah. It's gosh, what is her name? I'm gonna remember it. Lynn Holly Johnson. That's it. Lynn Holly Johnson. Lynn Holly Johnson and Robbie Benson. It's really schmaltzy. It's, love on ice skates, whatever. I Love You to Death. Actually, kind of fun and underrated dark comedy with Kevin Kline and a whole bunch of other crazy people, including Tracy Ullman.
Yeah.
The late River Phoenix is in that one as well. The very misguided Robin Williams vehicle, Man of the Year. This was kind of a train wreck.
Yeah.
This is sort of the film that started to sink Barry Levinson's career. Robin Williams is okay in it, but it's
a hard watch. That one.
It's a tough watch. I mean, it's probably timely now with what it says about politics and satire and television and celebrity, but I don't know. It's a little too late. The prequel to The Exorcist, Dominion, one of the most misguided Paul Schrader movies of all time. I don't know what he was thinking, but if you're into it, there it is. The somewhat controversial now, although it shouldn't be, The Bitter Tea of General Yen, with Nils Astor and Barbara Stanwyck basically doing Yellowface, which we should remember.
What year?
This is like 32.
Oh, I mean, forget about it.
Come on.
Sidney Greenstreet was still playing Charlie Chan.
I know.
Or something like that.
Yeah, you can't get too bent out of shape over it. It's a film of the time, and if anything, you look at it. I mean, it's basically it is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Check it out. Enemies: A Love Story. I absolutely adore. This is, I think, one of the great Paul Mazursky movies of all time, based on the story by Isaac Bashevis Singer. I think this is a beautiful, beautiful film. I think it's just so beautifully done. Everybody in this movie just gives it 150%. I think this should have won plenty of Oscars. Ron Silver's never been better.
I interviewed, and it was one of the first interviews I did for Box Office, not for Box Office, for Entertainment Today magazine. Feature pieces I did with Paul Mazursky about that film when I first got here. Like, what was that? Like 89, 90, something like that?
Oh, it's like 90. I want to say 93, 92,
that late?
Something like that. Yeah, something might be. Brian Song, the original television production. Don't watch anything else. James Caan and Billy D. Williams, one of the all-time great TV movies. Really, really a great real life story, and just so beautifully rendered. Fantastic.
One of the first bromances, man.
Sure was.
Yeah.
Sure was. Might even be the first bromance if we leave out Lawrence of Arabia. American Madness, another Frank Capra production from, this would have been about 1932 or 3 as well, I want to say. Not hugely remembered today, but really great cast. I mean, Constance Cummings and Walter Houston, and it's a really Pat O'Brien. It's a really, 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 really rock solid film. So completists will want to check that out. This is pronounced
I remember that.
PHFFFT. Just a good, silly, 60s comedy with, Jack Lemmon doing his shtick, Judy Holliday doing her shtick, Kim Novak and Jack Carson. It's one of those wacky comedies of the period. It just doesn't happen to have Jerry Lewis in it. It has Jack Lemmon, and that's all good. Kind of in the same vein, Jack Lemmon and Romy Schneider and Good Neighbor Sam. It's not a great film. It's silly, and Jack Lemmon is just chewing the scenery. But it's got its moments. It's worth checking out. It's a nice little artifact of the period. And then Kim Novak, Jack Lemmon, and Fred Astaire together in The Notorious Landlady, which is not quite as fun, but it's directed by Richard Quine, who had a moment. It's okay. It's okay. This is another little 60s thing. It's a little bit. It's a little funny. It's a little schmaltzy. Fred Astaire's getting a little long in the tooth, but they all kind of hold it down. The Kid Detective with Adam Brody and Sophie Nélisse. This is more recent. I watched maybe about a third of this. It didn't really grab me, but it has something of a following, so it's worth mentioning. One more Jack Lemmon movie I forgot to mention. Sorry. Under the Yum Yum Tree. This one is, this is a lot of people will find the sexual politics of this dated, but that's kind of the fun of it. It's got a lot of featurettes and documentaries on it. This is also directed by David Swift. And if you're a big Jack Lemmon fan, you'll want to check it out. But again, it feels a little bit dated, but it has its moments. One more, actually, still another Jack Lemmon movie. Sorry, I misfiled them. Jack Lemmon, Catherine Grant, and Mickey Rooney in Operation Madball. Not a very good movie at all. This is another Richard Quine effort, which, he made a few, obviously. The best person in this thing is Dick York, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Dick York kind of
one of the Darrens.
One of the Darrens. Dick York is maybe the best thing in this thing. Speaking of Darrens, James Darren is also in this by coincidence. Dick York is in it with someone named Darren, and he's not that person. And then the last two movies here, I'm going to make mention of The Last Shift with Richard Jenkins, Ed O'Neill, and Shane Paul McGee, which is kind of, sort of bromancy a little bit, I guess. Richard Jenkins has made a career out of playing these sort of detached, older, peculiar, idiosyncratic guys. He's made a few of those. And here he's an older guy working fast food for the better part of his life. And he has to train this young dude, played by Shane Paul McGee, to take his place, who's, basically a young black dude replacing this old white guy. Gets into a little bit of, cultural politics, and it's ultimately pretty poignant. Not great, but, it was a good idea. And then here's the last one of these that I'm going to mention from the Sony library, Ruben and Ed. Tim, do you remember Ruben and Ed?
I do.
Okay. Here's my Ruben and Ed story. I saw Ruben and Ed in a screening on the Sony lot in the Thalberg building down there in the basement.
Oh, yeah.
Which has, 6 screening rooms. I think it was Thalberg 23. I want to say it was, isn't that funny? I remember it was literally when you come down into the basement, you got the screening rooms on the left and the screening rooms on the right. This is the one in the second one on the left. I even remember this. That's how traumatic the experience was. I go into that little screening room, probably about 15, 16 people in there. Those screening rooms seat maybe 25. So it's fairly packed. Why wouldn't you want it to be? It's a comedy starring Howard Hessman and Crispin Glover. And you're thinking, this is like
90, 91, 90, something like that.
Yeah. And you're thinking, Howard Hessman and Crispin Glover, how bad can it be? Oh, you have no idea. Over the course of this movie's, whatever it is, how many minutes is this 82 minutes. Okay. 82 minutes. We start with about 15 people in that room. At about 60 minutes, we're down to about 8. By the time we roll around to 75 minutes, there are 2 people left in the room. I am one of them. Because so help me, I will not be driven out of a screening room by a bad movie. I will win. I will outlast. And at the end of that movie, the lights go up, and the lady who was left with me, we looked at each other and we laughed. And I said, "Die Hard, are you?" She said, "Wasn't going to let it lick me." I said, "Me neither. Good on you." We were the diehards, 2 people out of, more than a dozen, at least 15 who were there originally. Everyone walked out of this horrendous, dreadful movie. It destroyed the career of Trent Harris, who wrote
his very next movie was a movie called Plan 10 from outer space. So I think he was sort of copying to the fact I don't know, whatever. Yeah, he had a few acting types. Karen Black would show up and everything. He made a whole bunch of crap movies. He's still making movies.
Oh my gosh.
But they're all basically.
Just so you understand how bad Ruben and Ed is, this movie is fundamentally about nothing. Howard Hessman is a salesman who gets he tracks out Crispin Glover, who's this weird, eccentric, long-haired guy who has his dead cat in the freezer and wants to bury it. And then the whole thing winds up being a journey through the desert with the cat in a cooler to try to bury the cat, with these 2 guys just yelling at each other nonstop and getting into all of these horrible, contentious things. And at a certain point, Crispin Glover is drinking the melted water out of the cooler that the dead cat is in. It gets gross and weird, and there's no reason to watch this movie. I don't recommend this to anybody, but I just had to vent. It's been so many years, and I need the catharsis of being able to share this pain with you, Tim Cogshell, and all of our listeners.
you know the thing. I like Howard Hesseman and I like Crispin Glover. Even way back then, they were both sort of quirky. Crispin he did that wacky thing in those Zemeckis films. And Howard Hesseman, of course, was Dr. Johnny, whatever the hell his name was on WKRP.
Dr. Johnny Fever.
And in Cincinnati, plus he that great sitcom from the late 80s, early 90s that he was in with the head of the class.
Oh, yeah.
Howard Hesseman. So,
Yep.
That was a moment there in the early 90s when a lot of wacky people, Brad Pitt's. So the first big film, he made this film with Rick Schroeder. There was sort of a straight ahead film where he played Rick Schroeder's brother. Rick was actually the star of that film called Across the Tracks. But he was in this film called Johnny Suede. And Johnny Suede was sort of character, this all Elvis-like character with this pompadour, and there were all these little weird movies like that. Motorama was another one of them, and they were just these sort of Alison Anders made one or two of them before she made It's just there's just this moment where these little wacky sort of existential angst films were sort of like popping up, and most of them were really obnoxious and pretentious and terrible. So what are you gonna do?
Well, so at the end of the show, after I sign off with Tim, I'm going to wrap out with haven't done any anime in a while, so I'll spare Tim the ordeal of that, and I will roll through some anime suggestions to round out the show. But until then, Tim, what do we shift to next? We got some new movies. We got Criterion. I was looking at. I've
seen some of these new movies. I saw that 400 Bullets, that Tom Patton film, which is meant to be this sort of like real gritty sort of Afghanistan war movie. With these guys, I don't know. It's a weird thing when you look at these sort of films. If you'll recall, of course, about 5 years, and frankly, not even after, during the Vietnam War, there were a few films that sort of came out about the war, and then of course, about 5 years after the war, we got that big run through the early 80s. Of all of these, Hotel Hanoi, and obviously Platoon, and In Country, and all of these.
They wind up doing it to death.
Yeah, and I don't know, but these last I can't really think of a single really good. Jarhead was a decent movie about the first Iraq War, if you recall Jarhead. And I remember appreciating that Denzel Washington tank movie. I think it was called, what was that tank movie? The one where he was the tank commander out in the middle of a thing. He had to investigate the helicopter crash, Meg Ryan's character's helicopter crash.
Boy, what was that? It was not In Country, but it was.
No, that was Bruce Willis's one from but that one. I appreciated those two. And after that, they kind of go away from me. These last several films, several years, there have been several films that have tried to speak to either the Afghanistan war or the continuation of the war in Iraq, and just nothing. Our friend Rod Lurie made one. But I don't know, man. Unlike obviously during World War II, there were all those movies, and those movies continue to resonate. But something about the current, the wars about the current films about the current wars, they just don't work at all. I haven't seen one. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Exploitive.
Yeah, they seem like it. They're all full of politics. That's for sure. And I don't know. I just never felt like, or it's not that there's not politics in a film like, say, Full Metal Jacket. There are politics in that film. Kubrick's film. Yeah, there are politics in that film, but they're just the politics of the day. They're not the politics of the filmmakers. They're just, this is what the politics were of 1970, whatever the heck it was. And so those politics are in the film, but they're not the filmmakers' politics. All of these movies, you can see the politics of the filmmakers all over these movies.
Yeah.
And I think that's an undermining kind of thing. Anyway, that's a long way. That's a lot of talking to point out how this movie.
No, but it's, I think it underlines the point. Also want to make mention, new movie that it's only on DVD. We don't have it on Blu-ray. Still worth checking out. I wouldn't say. I think it's probably more of a VOD if that's available, but it is available on a DVD if you feel you need to own it. Is The Last Vermeer, which is based on a true forgery incident involving a Vermeer painting. Guy Pearce and Claes Bang are the principal cast members. Guy Pearce playing a rather fascinating and eccentric character, kind of an art connoisseur there may be more than meets the eye with him. Guy Pearce chews the scenery a good bit here, but it's still a really solid performance. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know that it's Guy Pearce, you're probably not going to care. A little bit of a courtroom drama, but I think pretty solid film for the most part. The Last Vermeer, worth checking out.
Yeah, I thought so too. Sean Patrick Flanery is in this movie called Born a Champion. Sean Patrick Flanery, man, in the early 90s, in the middle 90s, that guy was a movie star for a while there. Just Boondock Saints and all that stuff.
Let me tell you,
yeah.
when this arrived, and I because I didn't see it, I took I pull it out of the envelope and I look at it and I think it's an old Mickey Rourke movie, and I go, damn, Dennis Quaid looks old in that old Mickey Rourke movie that I've never heard of. And then I realized, holy cow, this is a new movie, and that's not Mickey Rourke. That's Sean Patrick Flanery.
Yeah.
So old Sean Patrick Flanery now looks like young Mickey Rourke.
Which is just so bizarre. It's about this guy. He's an American Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter, and apparently the first American to get a black belt. And part of that is apparently a true story, which is all fine. There's some good fight scenes in this movie. It's fairly dramatic. It has some beats. It's not bad. And Dennis Quaid can act, and actually Sean Patrick Flanery can act. So it's not as bad as you might think. Costas Mandylor shows up in it too. So, you're watching this movie, and frankly, it's just like this 90s, middle 90s flashback to all these old used to be movie star guys. It's kind of not that terribly bad.
Well, this is one of those grindstone films that we talk about a lot, where they go and dig up some actors and throw some money at them and make a relatively solid movie. I mean, the grindstone stuff is not terrible. It's just very grindstone-y. Speaking of, by the way, even though it's not a grindstone film, but it's an Emmett Furla film, which is effectively almost the same thing. This week on Film Week, talking about Boss Level. I did Boss Level, a real fun film.
Frank
Grillo. Frank Grillo at 57, who has a better body than Jean-Claude Van Damme had at 27. It's unbelievable. This would have been a Van Damme movie like 25 years ago, but it's not now. Now it's a Frank Grillo movie, and it's great. I'll tell you this, and people can listen to Film Week this week. Here's my preview of my Film Week one-liner. This is basically Groundhog Day crossed with John Wick.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. John Wick meets Groundhog Day.
with a hell of a budget. Yeah, and it's funny how Frank was. What was he, like a UFC guy? What he fought?
I don't know.
He fought in something. He was one of those. He was one of those fighter guys. I can't remember what it is.
Man.
And he sort of like worked his way into the movies through that. He would be in those movies, playing the heavy or playing whatever, and just sort of like slowly worked his way into legit movies where he had to do a little bit of acting, but kind of brought it. He was in The Gray with Liam Neeson and all that kind of stuff. He was kind of solid in that. He was kind of solid in that real serious sort of dramatic.
He's solid in this, man.
He's
solid in this. Good on him.
I see a Deon Taylor film here, Fatale. Whenever I talk about a Deon Taylor film, I have to point out that Deon Taylor is the most prolific black filmmaker in the history of Hollywood.
Is he really?
Deon makes a movie every 20 minutes. And real movies with real people. This particular one,
Swank and Michael Ealy.
Michael Ealy's been in 2 or 3 of his films. Megan Good's in 1 or 2 of his films. And you go back to Meet the Blacks. He had Mike Epps in that film, and they're all these Mike Coulter's in this one. So he makes these films. He gets these actors. He just does not miss. Sometimes he releases 2 films in a year. Look, they're these sort of like B-level films with fairly decent casts and releases, and they usually draw a sort of following, because they're genre movies. Almost all of them are genre films of one sort or another. This one is just sort of a reverse. What was the one with Michael Douglas and Fatal Attraction? He just leaves the word attraction off. But that's all it really is.
Well, let me say, even his worst film is Head and Shoulders better than Ruben and Ed. So, there you go.
But there you go. So we got another Deion Taylor thriller. He's in. He gets out.
So here's a silly one. Sky sharks. The sea is for fish. The sky is for sharks. So just so everybody understands, this is from Cape Light. This is completely ridiculous. This makes no sense at all. This is clear. Like, my friend David Latt is one of the founders of the Asylum, who makes all the Sharknado movies. I've known David for 30 some years. Used to write for him in previous publication he had. In any case, Sharknado, first time, funny. People who are saying like, hey, let's just riff on Sharknado and have like zombie Nazis and flying sharks and just stop it.
Yeah.
Just stop it with the sharks. Like, honestly, truly, the idea of some weird resurrected Nazi experiment with flying sharks. Stop it. Just stop it. I can't even come up with like a one-liner elevator pitch for something this stupid. Just stop it. Sky sharks. Come on, for love's sake. Stop it.
Look, it's not like when we were, really young film critics, or maybe even before then. What's his name over there was making all those toxic Avenger movies. Kaufman.
Yeah, Lloyd Kaufman.
Yeah, him and his brother, and and they made. I mean, these are not even Roger Corman films. These are the Toxic Avenger films. I mean, and they were perfectly insane movies. And I don't know, whatever. It seems like there's always going to be some sort of a wacky genre like that. That Gerard Butler movie, Greenland.
Yeah,
which is actually a pretty damn good, genre flick.
It's not bad,
not bad at all. It's intense. It's sort of paced quite nicely. To be honest with you, I rather preferred it to. Look, there was a run of these movies, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
And the Clooney film from that was on Netflix.
Of course, Midnight Sky.
Yeah. Midnight Sky.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of the same deal.
Yeah. And, anyway, comets coming, fragments of it are splashing around Earth, destroying cities and whatnot. Gerard Butler's estranged from his wife. He's got this family, and there's a possible chance to get to some place that might be safe. Although that part of the movie, I don't mind, why would that place be safe? But nevertheless, it's really just this sort of thrilling movie that they all play it really straight and take it really, really super seriously. It's no what was that wacky one with Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck? Armageddon.
Oh, Armageddon,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's no Armageddon. It's not that. It's you thoroughly enjoyed this movie.
It's Gerard Butler doing what he does well and not trying to do too much else.
Yeah.
And, I should, I see him around town every once in a while. I should probably just pull him aside and go, Greenland, dude, nice job.
Yeah.
And then he'll punch me. What
he'll do is buy you a drink. Yes.
Yeah, well, maybe. Charlotte Vega and Matthew Modine in Wrong Turn.
Yes.
And then here's the funny tagline: we still haven't learned. I love that. Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's the Hills Have Eyes ish. I guess we still haven't learned not to make remakes of The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
But that's basically what it is. The Hills Have Eyes. I don't know. It's exactly what it is. Mountain dwellers and the Appalachians and, stereotypes, and don't go near them mountains because there's crazy people in them. Whatever. But it's reasonly well done. And if you're a horror fan who doesn't mind derivative stuff, I guess it's got a thrill or two that you'll probably appreciate. Let's see. What else we got here? Horizon Line. Did you see Horizon Line by chance?
I think I saw that one.
So, it's moderately okay. It's one of those, it's a little bit, I mean, it's not a horror film. It's more one of those survival type deals. And we get a few of these. Where everything goes wrong and people have to somehow survive the horrible circumstances surrounding them. In this case, it's a couple who are on board a little plane, and they're, going to a friend's island wedding. and then the pilot has a heart attack, and everything goes south from there. I mean, I guess it's let's put it this way. You see the filmmaking in a lot of cases in this thing. You're very aware. You're like, okay, that's tank work. Okay, that's a little bit of CGI. You know, you're very aware of how sort of constructed it is based on set pieces and so forth. But, you know, I mean, I guess it's serviceable. It's tense. Alexander Draymond and Allison Williams are the actors. I'm not familiar with either of them, but it's okay. It's all right.
The very excellent Mr. Dundee. Let me see if I understand the storyline right. Paul Hogan, the Australian actor, the Crocodile Dundee guy.
I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to be able to make this sound good. But go ahead. Go ahead.
And you know, he wants to retire. But explain this to me. For one thing, dude, I didn't even know Paul Hogan lives in Brentwood. I had no idea.
I didn't either.
You know, I would have thought that Paul was down to say. Anyway, the sort of Crocodile Dundee guy, on the eve of being knighted, is sort of desperate to restore his sort of solid reputation thing. I don't know, man. So what? Because even the poster is playing on the old Crocodile Dundee poster. You know, when he was pushing the so you know what the hell is going on in this film? What is Paul doing?
I don't know. Here, let me preface this by saying this is also a grindstone film.
Okay.
So, you know how we often say there are two kinds of grindstone movies, one in which aging actors come in and take one last stab at being action stars, and then movies with talking animals. This is basically a movie about talking animals. The difference being that Paul Hogan is the talking animal. But it still goes in that. It's just, this movie makes no sense. It's Paul Hogan playing himself, trying to deal with some late life, you know, crises centering around his knighthood. And it's just ridiculous. It only exists for a handful of cameos, which include Olivia Newton-John for some charitable reason.
I think she lives in Malibu.
Maybe she still lives here. I don't know. I mean, she used to be a neighbor. I used to see her drive around all the time when I was, 15. I was very excited. But Chevy Chase shows up for some reason, and John Cleese is in here for some reason. I don't know why this movie even exists. It's very strange. And our last new movie is Fear of Rain with Katherine Heigl. I'm so sorry. I just don't know why Katherine Heigl can't put it together and do something decent again.
Man, that chick really burned it out, boy. I mean, she really burned it, from the first Under Siege movie and good run on that what was that, late 90s sort of science fiction TV show, Roswell. I think she was in Roswell. Yeah. And then she did all of these just really terrible movies back to back.
Well, she's playing moms now. So basically the idea here is Katherine Heigl and Harry Connick Jr. are parents to a daughter who is having early onset schizophrenia. And that should be sort of a setup that gets you, that earns you some kind of, a very serious drama. But it winds up not being so. It winds up kind of going into stupid thriller territory and doesn't really... It winds up not making a whole lot of sense. And the sad thing is, it's not going to make a whole lot of sense because of the way it's directed. Like, you watch this thing and you're like, I know where this movie is going and I don't like it. And I really, really don't like it. And yet I know it's going to go there. And then like a half an hour later, you're like, oh, it's so going there.
Right.
And then about the 1 hour mark, you go, oh, why did you go there? It's just one of those movies. Weekly. This is what our life is like, isn't it, Tim?
It is. It is. It actually is.
We've got a few minutes left. Did you want to hit? Well, let's knock out some of the 4K because I think there's some important 4K stuff here.
Okay.
The not so important 4K is The Croods: A New Age. Which if you like the first Croods, you'll love it. If you didn't, there's no point in this. I mean, it's The Croods. It is what it is. It got an Oscar nomination because there's no other animation that necessarily goes along with it. The two that we should talk about is, number one, Elysium.
Oh, yeah.
Because Neil Blomkamp, who this was his, overpriced follow-up to,
District
9.
Yeah.
He's now writing District 10. So what do we think about that? I didn't like Elysium, but I love District 9.
Yeah. Elysium was a little too. I had a couple of Matt. What's his name? Matthew.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon around in that movie.
Yeah.
So yes, it's same there. So I guess what that didn't work. Go back to the well and try it again.
Well, it's a gorgeous 4K. It has a Movies Anywhere digital copy included in it. Tons of extras on this thing, a lot of which you've probably already seen. But there's a lot of fun stuff in 4K as well, extras in 4K. So it's a beautiful movie. If you like it, you're probably going to want to get the 4K and upgrade to it. It really does show off audio and picture really nicely. But here's the other one I want to talk about. Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing.
Oh, fantastic.
On 4K UHD. Now, the emails that I have gotten from some people are, damn it, I already got the Criterion of this, but it's a Blu-ray. So do I get rid of my Criterion Blu-ray and pick up the Universal 4K? And my answer is no. Because the Criterion Blu-ray actually looks better than the Universal 4K. It's a better transfer. The colors are better. It's not as high a resolution. I admit that. But I think you probably want them both, is what I would say. I hate to tell people, double dip, but I do think you want them both. Also, there are different special features on them. There are 4 hours of special features on this thing, much of which is not on the Criterion. So I would say if you are a fan of Do the Right Thing, and you should be, you're going to want them both.
Yep.
I think you want them both.
Yep. Gotta agree completely. It's so funny. I've been watching Do the Right Thing, and my Blu-ray because I had to calibrate because I've been doing color correction, my little movie color correction. And they're both like set on one day as the hottest day of the year and everything. I've been trying to get a sense for the way. It's the East Coast and everything in New York for the ways, but because the Blu-ray is pretty saturated.
Very.
It's a fun thing though, because obviously, went to see that film in 1980 in the theater, 35 millimeter print projected, obviously. And I just don't remember it ever being, that's the only time I ever saw it projected was the first time I saw it. Then, and I've seen it 1,000 times since in all kinds of situations. The only time I ever saw it projected from film was then. And I don't remember it to being that saturated. I remember, it's all kinds of dashikis and cool in red. There's that red wall. Remember they're in front of the red wall.
It's so beautiful.
It's just all that kind of stuff. But I'm like, wow, this is really so. Anyway, it's I'm taking some cues from that. Is what I'm doing. Interesting.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
good thing. We do, by the way, then also have a few Criterions. Smooth Talk, which I never would have expected to be a Criterion, to be honest. This is from 1985, and young Laura Dern. This was kind of the film that made her. I mean, Tim, do you remember seeing this when it came out?
I saw it.
It later.
It was before I got here, so I didn't review it. It was before I was writing, but I do remember it. Actually seeing it. Yeah,
I have a vague recollection of seeing this long afterwards, because I was in France when this came out, so I would have seen this probably early 90s on, I want to say on VHS or something, and I can't remember exactly how, but I remember thinking, oh, that's not that great of a film. But I guess it was a real seminal film in 85, just in terms of, depicting that generation and, sexuality and lost innocence and all of that kind of stuff. Joyce Chopra didn't really ever go anywhere as a filmmaker, but there are a lot of really interesting extras on here that sort of increase my appreciation for what it represented at the time. New conversation between Chopra and Treat Williams and Mary Kay Place, which is very, very interesting. So Smooth Talk, quite an interesting and unexpected Criterion release. And then the last two. So if anybody has seen The White Tiger on Netflix, directed by Ramin Bahrani, who previously did 99 Homes, which is outstanding. So Ramin Bahrani is a really interesting guy. He's an American-born son of Iranian immigrants, and brings this amazing sort of cultural background to his filmmaking. And the two films that really kind of made him were Man Push Cart and Chop Shop. And I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to him at the time. This is the kind of the mid 2000s. Man Push Cart was 2005, Chop Chop 2007. But a lot of other people were really paying attention to him, and revisiting these movies after seeing 99 Homes and then obviously the White Tiger on Netflix. Man, I even when he's not quite on, I find Bahrani to be a really interesting. He makes really super interesting choices because he comes at everything sideways, and I'm wondering if maybe it's because he is kind of from a bicultural background, immigrant parents growing up here. He kind of comes at everything with a perspective that I would not expect. And
and particularly that movie Chop Shop, he does that sort of neo-realist thing. That kid that's in that movie, that's a kid. That's in the movie. The guy is, that's again, there are a lot of quote unquote non-actors. They're all acting very well, but they're not actors per se. They kind of are who they are. The kid who's running around is his sister. And so he's kind of doing that neo-realist thing. By the time you get to 99 Homes, Andrew Garfield and all of that kind of stuff. But Chop Shop and Man Push Card, again, same sort of thing. What you're watching is something analogous to the reality of the moment, and the people living those lives in those places at that time, doing those things, but for a certain sort of narrative superimposed over the top of it, is what he's doing. I really love that stuff.
Well, we're at the end of the regular period. I want to do a couple of giveaways here. We've got some interesting Paramount releases that are all part of the new Paramount Presents line of classic titles. For example, one of the new titles is Elizabethtown, which I don't want to give too much attention to because Cameron Crowe just completely bonked it in this thing. It's really not a good. It's not a good. It's just not a good movie. It's just not a good movie. It's like it's just not good.
Cameron lost it after Almost Famous. Really,
it's really sad. But this is like what was the movie with what's his name, Zach from Scrubs, that he was in?
The girl. I know what you're
Well, anyway. It's basically that, except not done very well. But here's what we do have. We have The Court Jester and Love Story. Love Story having its wonderful anniversary celebration. Love Story, just a seminal film. Ally McGraw and Ryan O'Neal got stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame the other day, which made everyone go, they didn't have them already? Yeah. And it's kind of true. It's like, well, are you kidding me? Why didn't they have them back in 1970 when the movie came out? That's an amazing thing. Love Story was a revolution at the time. If there had been no Love Story, there might not have been a Godfather, because Love Story was so successful. It kept it saved Robert Evans' job, and he was able to then get behind The Godfather a couple of years later. So Arthur Hiller never made a better movie. It's got a TCM introduction by Ben Mankiewicz, and we are giving away 2 copies of Love Story. We are also giving away 2 copies of 1956's Danny Kaye classic, The Court Jester, shot in VistaVision here on Blu-ray. An absolutely fantastic transfer. It is so bright and so funny. Angela Lansbury is so beautiful in this thing. It kills me. This is a really wonderful movie. It's so funny. Glynis Johns is in this as well, who would later on be in Mary Poppins. I mean, it's a funny, wonderful, fantastic, classic Danny Kaye movie. You will not regret it. We're giving away 2 copies of each of those. Send us emails to gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com. Make sure they get to us by March 8th. Put Jester in the subject line if you want to be in the running for The Court Jester, and put Love, just LOVE, in the subject line if you want to be in the running for A Love Story, and put your name and address in the body of the email. And on the 8th, we will pick 2 very happy winners for each one and send you these Blu-rays. With that, Tim, I've got Film Week this week as well, so I'm up to my neck. What else do you have?
Doing a little editing, a little color correcting. There's a series of BuzzMeter articles I've been contributing to, along with Claudia Puig, our other Film Week critic, on the Oscars coming up. So I think there's one more of those that will be popping up. If people go roaming around, you search my name in the LA Times, they'll find that. Just seeing how the rest of the sort of award season is going to play out. I think the Independent Spirit Awards, which are actually my favorite award show, our own, notwithstanding, the Independent Spirit Awards have always been just this wonderful show. They used to have it down on the beach in Santa Monica years ago. I think they're having it on the beach again. And it's always the day before the Oscars. They used to broadcast it on IFC or something like that. I doubt that they even have a broadcast situation. But if you go to I don't know, whatever, Film Independent or Independent Spirit Awards, you can probably watch a Zoom of it or something. The Independent Spirit Awards. So we'll see how they do that one, and that'll be a wrap for this season.
All right. Well, I'm once I let you go here, I'm gonna do a little tag with a few anime recommendations for the week, and then we will see everybody in a couple of weeks. And I think we'll probably come back after Oscar nominations and have some big thoughts at that time. So with that, here now we're gonna dovetail into anime. All right, so we're now going to do a little anime segment for the show. We've got a lot of great anime that we haven't covered in the past, and it's been a little while, so I want to just jump into some of this stuff and make sure it's on the radar of anime fans. First up, Ongaku Our Sound by Kenji Iwaisawa, who pretty much was a one-man wrecking crew on this thing. This is a really novel and new kind of anime. Doesn't look a whole lot like regular anime. Probably has a little bit more of a Beavis and Butthead look to it, to be honest, or King of the Hill has that Mike Judge simplicity. But it's kind of a coming of age thing about these three ne'er-do-well high school kids and who form a band. But it translates well. It's got some great humor in it. Also from Shout Factory, we have, and I believe this played on Netflix, we have the very, very compelling Be the Beginning Season 1, which is kind of a serial killer noir tale, not for kids necessarily. Incredible artwork. It takes place in a city-state, an imaginary city-state, where there are these horrible, horrible murders, and the whole thing is sort of procedural and trying to catch the criminal responsible. Really, really good. Comes with a lot of great extras on here, art cards and a poster and the pilot film, and then an interview with the director that's pretty terrific. We also have this is actually from Nozomi. This is from rightstuffanime.com. Is My Buddha, 2 exclamation points. The punctuation always counts in anime titles, as we will get to in just a moment with another pair of films. This is about a guy who is super, super hormonal. This is, I guess, probably for older teens, makes more sense. And when his hormones rage, he kind of turns into a superhero, like a Buddhist monk superhero. It's a little bit weird, but then it gets into kind of some weird family comedy, and the humor is very specific. You probably know this kind of humor in anime. It's sometimes inappropriate, sometimes completely unexpected, but this belongs to a very particular genre. My Buddha, Buddha, 2 exclamation points. Bartender, on its 15th anniversary, is getting kind of a cool little re-release. I'm not particularly a fan of this. Don't really understand it. Didn't spend a lot of time watching these episodes. Nice animation, but it's kind of a hipster narrative and hipster characters, and I don't really get the whole point of it. But nonetheless, it's a nice set. It comes with cocktail cards and drink coasters, and that is the 15th anniversary collector's edition of Bartender. Not specifically Japanese anime, but they're definitely very much inspired by it, is Zhang Ziya, The Ultimate Warrior, which is the second in a series. The first was Nezha, Nezha, which are all part of the Fengshen Cinematic Universe. These are mainland Chinese CG animated epics that are very much inspired by anime, as most Asian animation tends to be, all the way from India to Taiwan to China to Korea. They all sort of take their cues from Japan, because that's what's popular. In any case, the story here is about a sort of a powerful mythical general who has to accomplish a quest that will earn him his destined stature among the gods, and there is a complication in that quest, and that creates a moral dilemma. It's very interesting, quite well written, and given the ebb and flow of the story, I'm kind of surprised politically that it came out of the current Chinese culture. So that's quite cool. Funimation has a few recent titles from the end of last year that are also worth mentioning. I'm going to go through the main ones. They're all sort of team oriented. And Stand My Heroes, Piece of Truth. This is the complete series. This is a series I had never heard of before, and I thought I was connected enough to most of the anime world to have heard of this before. This is a little bit like Marvel's S.H.I.E.L.D. This is about a group called Stand, and they are a little bit like S.H.I.E.L.D. or like S.W.O.R.D. if you've been watching the recent Disney Plus show WandaVision. S.W.O.R.D. and S.H.I.E.L.D. are like complementary organizations, and here it's Stand, and this is kind of a crime fighting operation. It's got bureaucrats and detectives and operatives and agents, and they're trying to sort of get to the root of a drug operation. It's very, very well written. It's probably a little bit beyond children. It's more kind of mid to late teens, but it's quite good. Season 1, Part 2 of Fairy Gone is now out. That's got some similar qualities to it. This is in the aftermath of a terrible war. You now have this sort of pseudo soldier, pseudo army operation, whose job is to try and keep the peace. And what makes them unique is that they are fairy soldiers. These are the fairy soldiers of Dorothea, and it's a fun idea. If you haven't seen the first part of the first season, it will make not a lot of sense to you. So you should definitely get that only if you're caught up completely on the on the saga. The same thing goes for Radiant, which is now in season 2, part 1. If you have not watched season 1, you're going to be completely caught off guard. And this is a more mythical journey stuff, more of that Joseph Campbell stuff. It's had a really interesting legacy. It started as manfra, which is like French manga. Then it became Japanese manga, and then it became an anime season, and they added this second season. And so this is the beginning of the second season. A little bit hard to describe exactly what's going on. It's kind of in a mythical quasi-future where monsters rain from the sky and turn people into sorcerers or destroy anything else, and about this ordained hero who has to bring balance and peace back to the world. Lots of alternating forces, conflicting forces that he has to navigate. It's a good hero's journey thing, and it has a lot of nice nuance to it. And then we have Kono Oto Tomare! Sounds of Life. This is season 2. Again, like with everything else we've been talking about, if you're not completely immersed in the mythology of it, it will not make a whole lot of sense to you. In Japan, this is a giant thing. There are millions and millions of copies were sold of the original manga. So this series is a big deal. If you are not familiar with the manga or season 1, you might want to catch up, especially if you are a fan of the traditional Japanese instrument, the koto. This is about a club of them and how they are trying to master it to become, national champions. Not a lot else going on here. It's coming of age stuff. It's school stuff, teen stuff. Very, very much a part of Japanese culture, but it translates pretty well. I think, everybody will be able to sort of relate to what these kids are doing and what's going on. And it's got a lot of fun music and pretty well written. Comes with art cards. Also on a Blu-ray and digital set from Funimation is part 2 of Ensemble Stars! And this is a little bit in keeping with the same vein, a little bit more rock and roll. This is about the Yumenosaki Private Academy, where they train male pop stars to become parts of boy bands and so forth. And they are now going to go toe-to-toe with a rival school. This is probably, you wouldn't appreciate the characters if you haven't seen season 1, but or part 1, but it's not that deep, so it's probably just as well. And then kind of in the same vein is the After School Dice Club. This is an all-girls, more schoolyard stuff. This is an all-girls club. This is all about the Euro games. And if you don't know what that is, then you're probably not alone, because I didn't either. I want to say in some ways this reminds me of Square Pegs. These Japanese schoolgirls and their board club, and all trying to fit in and be the popular girls. They have all kinds of, the usual schoolyard politics that goes on in middle school and high school. But it's cute and it's fun and it's not overly demanding. And the idea of a board game club probably has a lot of currency in other cultures as well. I want to move now to just a handful of Sentai titles from Section 23. A lot of stuff from the Sentai library is coming out. I've got them in 3 different groups here. The first one, this is anime that's sort of the heroic team variety. Let me go through these fairly quickly. The first one is Majestic Prince, Genetic Awakening. This is the movie collection. This belongs to the mecha subgenre of anime. This is also based on a manga. This is episode 25 of the series plus the theatrical movie. It takes place in the future. The Earth is under attack, and there's our only defense are these genetically enhanced kids. It's fun fantasy fulfillment, pretty decent mecha. Then we have part 1, episodes 1 through 12 of 7 Seeds. This is kind of similar in some respects. The idea is that the Earth has put 7 sort of arcs called seeds, 7 different groups of people into cryogenic freeze. They come out in a future post-apocalyptic environment when the Earth has completely changed, and they have to now sort of survive in those environments. Really, really cool animation, some pretty smart writing, and it'll be interesting to see where this one goes. This is part 1, also based on a manga. 7 Seeds. Next up is the complete collection of Sentei's Punchline. These, again, are all on Blu-ray. And there's a really weird joke that goes with this that I'm not going to say on the show, but it's basically about a guy who had, it's kind of like a weird Japanese comedic version of Three's Company. You might call it Five's Company, with a ghost twist. A guy lives with 4 girls. He dies. His spirit becomes guardian of the girls. But he could bring on Armageddon if some really ridiculous thing happens. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, but if you know Japanese anime comedy, you can probably imagine. Given the setup, Blade of the Immortal is just priceless. And this is the complete collection of Blade of the Immortal, which I think is one of the most stunning anime of like the last 25 years, without any question. I wish this was a little bit fancier of a set, but it's fine as it is. It's better to have it than to not. Most people are probably familiar with the Takashi Miike live action film, which is a whole different kind of awesome. But the anime really does stand right alongside it as well. Again, based on a manga. This is 24 episodes on 3 discs. The story of the samurai Manji and everything that crosses his path and all of his fights. It's just absolutely stunning stuff. It really is. This is just some of the best anime that you will ever see. It really, really is magnificent. Beautiful feudal work. Something I'd never heard of before. This is seasons 1 and 2 of Ascendance of a Bookworm. The subtitle is "I'll do anything to become a librarian!" ! There's that exclamation point again. Ascendance of a Bookworm. I'll do anything to become a librarian. This has been available in the U.S. on Crunchyroll, if any of you are viewers of Crunchyroll. And the story here is a little bit weird, and I'm not sure even after watching most of it that it makes a lot of sense to me. But it seems to be about a librarian who is reincarnated as a little girl in a future where books are taboo, or at least very scarce. And I guess on a certain level, this is designed to teach children an appreciation for reading. But I would say maybe there are easier ways to tell that story. Then we have another collection of Sente titles here, which are sort of not really categorizable, but they're all worth noting. The first one is Twittering Birds Never Fly, The Clouds Gather. This is a feature film based on a manga that is mostly about the politics of the Yakuza. I didn't find it all that interesting. I think maybe you have to be familiar with the manga. I didn't find the animation itself that compelling. But apparently it is hugely popular with people who love the manga. So there is that. A Jin Demi-Human, the OAD collection. This also seems to have a pretty strong following. The idea here, a Jin, AJIN, are a breed of very dangerous kind of superhumans. They're a little bit like Wolverine or Luke Cage. You can't kill them. They heal instantly. They have regenerative powers that humans do not, and a little bit like Blade. There is one who says, I will help you fight against those who are like me. And that's sort of the conflict that goes on here. It's, a little bit of a Superman Lex Luthor thing borrowed as well. Speaking of which, Lock the Superman. That's Locke, Lock the Superman. This is something of a famous anime from 1984 that is pretty simple stuff. It's almost Power Rangers simple. Tells the story of a super powerful Superman being who is called upon to help save humanity when this evil female villain threatens to destroy everything, and that's pretty much it. It's really simple, but you'd probably want to take a look at this just to see where anime has come over the past 40 some years. 1984 anime was pretty rudimentary and not that far beyond even Astro Boy or Speed Racer. 24 episodes on 3 discs of Ahiru no Sora, Collection 1, episodes 1 to 24. This is a basketball series, and basketball is bigger in Japan than you might imagine. I know everybody thinks that Japan is primarily baseball territory as far as more westernized sports. It's certainly soccer territory, but there are huge basketball fans there. And the lead character here is Sora Kurumatani, who is just not built to be a great basketball player. But with a whole lot of pluck and luck, the world of basketball will become both an opportunity and a life-teaching moment. The last set of titles I'm going to roll through here are all very feminist themed. These are amazing women and teams of women, and that has become an incredibly popular subgenre or subworld of anime. The first one is Negima! And Negima! Question mark. Complete collection of both of them. 3 discs, 26 episodes. Pretty fun, actually. This is hugely popular in Japan and hugely popular outside of Japan. The central character here is actually male, kind of like if Harry Potter were a little bit grown up and were teaching at a girls' school. But it's the idea of this powerful magician teacher and then the female students that really gives it all of its interesting little ins and outs. It's basically all about the Mahora Academy where he teaches these students all these amazing teenage girls, and it gets a little bit sketchy when it gets into the girls wanting to having crushes on him, but it's still actually quite a great anime story how Negima became so popular. Moribito, Guardian of the Spirit, the complete collection, also from Sente, as all of these are. This is based on the first book of the very famous manga series, which is basically, this is about 10 some odd years old. Takes place in this sort of mythical Pan-Asian world, which is beautifully rendered and quite nicely written too. Nothing out of the ordinary here, but this includes 26 episodes on 4 discs. Very, very nice transfers. Really, really quite sharp on Blu-ray. Some really great sort of action sequences here as well. The politics of it takes a little bit getting used to. It's very Lord of the Ringsy, a lot of characters and a lot of ins and outs, but otherwise quite fine. Granbelm, The Two Princeps, is actually a whole lot of fun and some really, really great animation here. So I'm not quite sure how much of this mythology actually makes sense. But the idea is that in the future, all the world went through this giant war between wizards and witches, and all the magic has now been bottled up inside some kind of a, like a Marvel-like gizmo of some kind. And you have these now, the only people who can unlock the magic are these girls who have this competition where they're piloting these giant robots. So there's a little bit of mecha, a little bit of fantasy, a lot of different anime genres that are all kind of folded into this. But it's very compelling characters, some really, really cool art design in the whole thing. And it's not overly immersed in this really, really didactic mythology that you can't sort of pick up on what's going on. The rules, again, are a little sketchy. It's not quite clear what is and isn't possible in the world. They kind of do tend to make it up as they go along in a few places. But Granbelm, The Two Princeps, is a lot of fun, and that also was aired on Crunchyroll here. Apparently, I don't watch Crunchyroll, but so it says. Now we have also To Love Ru, Motto, the complete collection. That's Motto, To Love Ru, the complete collection. This is an English dubbed edition, 2 discs, 12 episodes. I've talked about this before. It's just wacky stuff. It's really, it's a guy and an alien princess and weird high school antics. It's a little bit of, Romeo and Juliet, a little bit of Lilo and Stitch. It's, a little bit too risque. Not for kids, definitely for an older set. Only for people who know what it is and know what they're getting into. Another one of my favorite anime titles, a complete collection of When Supernatural Battles Became Commonplace, which is not at all what it sounds like. This is about the Senko High School Literature Club. And the members all have superpowers, so they can do all kinds of weird things, like one can create lava and another one can manipulate matter. And sometimes it doesn't seem like the rules really make a whole lot of sense. But, it's cute. It's another spin on the Japanese school politics thing. Complete collection of Assassin's Pride has a lot going for it as well. Takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where the Earth is barely clinging to survival, and human beings have to fight creatures known as lycanthropes. And one girl is seeking to develop the powers to basically be the mythical savior or savioress. All while there is an assassin who's chasing her down. It's a lot more to the mythology, but that's basically the nutshell of it. It's fun. Some good stuff. Chidori RSC. This belongs to the sports club, high school sports club subgenre of manga and anime. The original manga is called Rifle is Beautiful, and this is just basically about a girl who restarts her high school shooting club and tries to build it into a great big elaborate competition. Girls with rifles, high school girls with rifles. If that's your thing, you're going to absolutely love this and go nuts for it. ZX Code Reunion, the complete collection. This is based on a card game, and it's kind of risque artwork, but it's a pretty smart story about these girls who have to there's an interdimensional breakdown, right? And these creatures from other dimensions are all sort of descending on our reality and our Earth, and these girls have to train to be able to fight them. Again, more moving parts to this, and it gets a little into the school thing too. They have to train in their academy, a little bit of a Harry Potter thing. But, the characters are fun. The artwork is sharp. And again, the mythology is not too complicated to get a handle on. Only got a few left here. We've got, let me do this one next. Bang Dream, Film Live. This is the feature film dealing with the Bang Dream pop girls, the pop band that was so popular for 3 straight anime seasons. Bang Dream, Film Live. No reason to watch this unless you just cannot get enough of it and you've watched all 3 seasons of the anime series and you just gotta have more. Let's see. The next one. This is kind of a weird blending of anime and Nordic mythology, but it's basically about a kid who doesn't think much of himself and who is given the burden, the calling, the mission from Odin to work with the Valkyries and save the Earth. And so 9 Valkyries. It's a tad risque, but the Valkyries are awesome and a whole lot of fun. And then the very, very last one here is Killing Bites, the complete collection, which is probably not for all tastes, but I think it's pretty cool. It's I think some of the it's got some inappropriate comedy in it that won't translate very well, but I think it's pretty cool. Which is all about these battles. Killing Bites, the complete collection from Sentai. Last one we're talking about. These battles between kind of human-animal hybrids in, which is basically it. Like, they have human claws and fangs and whatnot, or animal claws and fangs, and it gets a little gruesome. It's not always tasteful, but it's got some really, really great stuff in it. Some of the animation, some of the action stuff is very, very well done, and particularly well edited, I would say. Not for all tastes, but if that kind of twisted concept sounds like your kind of thing, I would say go for it. And that's on Blu-ray, as they all are from the Sentai library. With that, we're done this week. We'll be back in probably 2, maybe 2.5 weeks. I think we're going to hold off until after the Oscar nominations, and we will be back then. And we will see what this very unusual year will yield as far as the Academy Awards, and whether or not this horrible slide of Academy Awards ratings will be able to rebound in a pandemic year, or whether it will, like the Golden Globes, hit the basement again. We'll see you next time.